everyone, Sabrina here. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be creating two pop-up barn cards using our new A7 pop-up barn die set. You do get this full set when you purchase the barn. So it's two full pages and I will use most of them in today's video. Here is my little cat Charlie who walked on my desk, so I thought I'd show her on camera. For my Halloween card, I'm going to use the Haunted House add-on, the A7 Witch Hill cover plate, and I was going to use the Halloween animals, but I decided not to. And then I'll also pull in the Slimline Graveyard borders and the barn animals. From last year, I'm going to pull in this A2 Forest cover plate, and those are all the dies that I used today. I will have everything linked down below if you'd like to recreate these cards yourself. I know that a lot of you purchased the barn and are eager to see the tutorial, so here I have a long video going over how to assemble them and decorate them for fall and Halloween. So I'm starting off by paper piecing all of my elements to decorate my fall barn. I die cut 2 white fences, the shingles for the roof, 2 hay bales, a tractor, a windmill, a rake, the horseshoes, and the little chicken that goes on top of the chicken coop. All of these are included in the original A7 pop-up barn, so you really don't need any add-ons to create a regular traditional barn. You pretty much get everything you need to decorate it. Obviously having animals is nice, so I'm going to pull in the barn animals, but that is all I used for this card. You can see that I am layering up my little die cuts just to add extra dimension. So for my tractor, I have a white heavyweight die cut underneath my green tractor. All of the teeny tiny pieces like the wheels, the steering wheel, those I did not double layer. They're just cut from silver cardstock and black. So I'm only double layering the larger pieces. So the fence has 2 heavyweight white die cuts, the windmill had 1, and so did the hay bales. The only die cuts that I did not layer up were the shingles for the roof because I did not want to add too much weight to the roof. So here's that adorable little tractor, which is I think my favorite image from the latest release for fall. It's such a cute tractor, and I could see using it on flat cards as well, and with the Countryside Slimline cover plate we brought out in the latest release would be adorable. So now I'm going to paper piece my barn animals, which I did die cut off camera. The set includes all of the tiny dies for the hoofs of the animals. For this goat, it cuts the tail and the horns. So I cut the base of the goat from dark gray cardstock, and then everything else, the second layers, I cut from a lighter gray. And some of the animals have more layers and some have less. The goat was pretty easy because I just used 2 colors of cardstock for him. The sheep I used 3, so I cut the base once from white and once from light gray so that I could give her light gray legs and a light gray face. And then from the die, I separately cut out the ears and the snout from dark gray cardstock. Now I'm moving on to the cow. You can see that there's a lot of tiny images that die cut from this set, so I kept every animal on a scrap piece of cardstock so I didn't lose all of those tiny hooves and the tail. So the cow has 3 colors on him. I cut the spots, the ears, and the hooves and tail from black, the base from white, and then the udders and the snout from pink. I love that these farm animals are proportionate to the barn, so they're not going to look oversized or too small. The pieces are definitely small, but the base themselves are larger, and you don't have to do all the fussy paper piecing if you don't want to. You can just use the base image and add an eyeball with a black pen. You're still going to get that detail because the way I drew the dies, it has cut lines inside so that it adds more detail, and then if you do want to layer them up, you'll know where to add your pieces, if that makes sense. So they're actually really pretty as just the base if you just want to do that. So there I just did the chicken, and then I have the pig. So I die cut him from a light pink, and then his tail, ears, and snout from dark pink. And then I cut his hooves from brown. So these barn animals are going to be for my fall card, and there is a Halloween animal set if you want to create Halloween barns and want animals inside them. So there's like a cat, a wolf, an owl, a crow, and a bat included in that set. And again, they're sized to work with the barn or the storefront pop-up die set. So the last animal I have here is the horse. So I cut the base from craft and then the layering pieces from dark brown. And I know that it looks like there's a lot of small pieces because there are, but there's not a lot of pieces for each animal except the cow, I would say. So they're actually really fast to paper piece. Here I have a black fine liner. I'm just going to add some eyeballs to them. I think Google eyes would also be really cute for maybe like a kid card. So now that all of my elements are created to decorate the barn, I'm going to cut through one base of the barn so that I'll be able to see inside and add my animals inside the barn. So I'm using the shadow dies included in the set for the windows and the door to cut through my front card base. You can see that I cut another base solid from red cardstock. I also cut the chicken coop, the door, the swinging door, all of the frames to decorate the barn, the connector, the windmill, the rake, the hay bale, the chicken, and then on the other side of the die set, you get both. It's a huge set. On this side, I cut the panels for the roof twice so that I could decorate each half of the roof. I cut the roof base from red, the fence, the tractor, which you saw me paper piece, the bridges. I thought I was going to use 2 bridges. I only ended up using 1. And then this long piece on the side there is the other half of the chicken coop. So you might have noticed that all of my red pieces I double cut, and that is because I'm using a lightweight cardstock. So you don't have to do this if you're using a 100-pound cardstock or more. In this case, this is only 80 pounds, so I am double layering all of my main card base pieces. So the front of the barn, the back of the barn, the connector. I did not double up the chicken coop. You don't need that to be super heavy. You don't want to add too much weight to the roof. It's also such a small piece that it's in your benefit to use a lighter weight cardstock for the chicken coop. However, if you are using a heavyweight, you'll be fine folding it up. So I went ahead and added acetate behind my cutout windows. This is going to allow me to nest my framed windows and door. All of these frames are triple layered with heavyweight white cardstock. I love when things pop out, especially these detail pieces. So this added a lot of extra time to my card making process that's not necessary, but I have done this so much now that it's just something I naturally do for all of my cards because I love the look and I think it's worth the extra time. But you don't have to do that, obviously. So I also added a little gold star to the very top of the roof. And I'm also going to add the horseshoe on each side of the top 2 windows, just to add some gold touches. Here I have my door. I glued it to the base piece that allows the door to swing open, which I cut from red cardstock. I again double layered that so that it's nice and heavy because I knew that the recipient was going to open and close this. There are those 2 gold horseshoes that I added, just added a nice bit of detail, and those are included in the barn set as well. From the everyday border set 2, I die cut some grass. These are slimline borders, so it's really nice to go across the whole panel with one border. If I were to do this card again, I would cut the grass from a different shade of green cardstock. I didn't realize that I cut the same green that I used to cut my tractor, but it's fine. It's not a huge deal. So I'm going to go across the front of the barn and then also the side here. I am cutting in between the score line just so that it's going to fold nice. Then I'll decorate the side piece. So I have my double layered fence. I cut off the end because it's a little bit too long. I drew it so that it could go in the front of the barn, but you can still use it on the side if you trim it. And then on the left, to hide it, I'm going to add my tractor. And here you can see it's the same shade of green. I know as crafters, we see these things, but the recipient probably doesn't. So I moved on with my life. So here is the hay bale I cut from gold. You saw there I added a piece of foam tape on the right side of it. That way I can tuck my closed door on the left side of the hay bale so that it will allow my door to fully close, but you can also untuck it and open the door that way. So on that left window, I thought it'd be really cute to have the goat peeking through. And then here I'm testing to see what other animals I want to put inside the barn. Before I do that, I'm going to decorate my back panel. So again, I'm going to double layer the back piece, not necessary if you're using heavyweight cardstock. This one I did not cut through. I want this one to be solid so that I can add an area to write a message. And to write the message, I needed a white panel to go on the back. So here I am tracing the main shape onto some white cardstock, and I'm going to use my scissors and cut about 1/4 of an inch inside that drawn line so that it's a bit smaller and it's a nice layering piece to go on the back of my barn. And you can cut another one of these to make a template for all of your barns. So I really like how that turned out. I'm going to add it to the back, and then I'll take some more grass and add that to the back piece and the side. Again, I'm cutting each side of the score line just to ensure that it's going to fold nicely. All right, and then on this side piece, I'm going to add another fence. This time I'm trimming the right side, and I'm going to tuck it behind my grass. I did that with the tractor as well. And then on the right, I'm going to add my windmill, another hay bale, and you can add the rake as well. I thought about adding it, but decided not to. All right, so those are both of my pieces decorated. I will add more to the back. Once my animals are inside the barn, I'll use the rest of my animals for the back of the card. So now I'm going to move on to the roof, and I am using the panels that are included in the die set. I cut them from silver mirror cardstock so that it looked like a metal roof. And the die even has those cut lines, so it looks ribbed. It's really cool. It looks like metal, which I love. So I'm going to go ahead and add those panels to my red roof. Again, that red roof is double layered. All right, so now I'm going to add a combination of tape and glue to connect my two base pieces. Then I will just bring each end together to close it off. But because I have a see-through window, I had to trim the tab on this piece a little bit shorter so that you don't see the glue behind the acetate. And that's it. Then you create this little toolbox shape. It is exactly like the A7 pop-up storefront. It's literally the same design, just a different shape. So the connector is also very similar, where you fold one tab away from you, one tab towards you, and then that middle tab you can glue in either direction. It does not matter, as long as one tab is facing away and one tab is facing towards you. Because there are windows on the front of my card that are see-through, I'm going to trim this a little bit shorter. If you're creating a closed barn, which is what I'll create for my second card today, you don't need to trim it, but this one I trimmed about 1/2 inch off. I have the tab facing the left side. You can have it on the right. It really doesn't matter. I have my roof, and I find the easiest way to attach the roof to the base is holding the card completely upside down, 90 degrees. I am lining up the center of the roof exactly to the tab, holding it down, and then folding it flat. That's going to ensure that it adheres really nice. So now we're going to work on the chicken coop. Right now I am just reinforcing the score lines. This is the long piece that's included with the roof side of the die set. I'm going to attach each end together. There is a 1/2 inch tab on one end that's going to connect each side together. Then you're going to see that there's 2 tabs facing inwards at the bottom and 2 triangular parts jutting outwards. We're going to come back to that, but first I'm going to reinforce the score lines on the second piece. This is going to be the roof of the chicken coop. In the center of this piece, you're going to notice 2 cut lines. They're not fully cut, so I'm taking my scissors and I'm just going to cut those ends so that it's fully through. And then I'm going to go back to the longer piece and tuck in those jutting triangular parts so that the tip of the triangle or the point is facing inwards, both ends. Okay, so then here are the slitted centers. That's going to create 2 little triangles on each side. Those are where you're going to add your glue and attach them to the triangles on the other piece. I hope I'm making sense here. I'm just going to do the exact same thing to the other side. And that's going to create your chicken coop. I am using liquid glue here. And once both triangles are attached, you can fold it flat just to make sure it's nice and adhered. There, I just cut a little slit at the top so that I can add my chicken arrow. And then those tabs at the bottom are what you use to attach it to the roof. So I suggest using liquid glue and tape here. You can see that it kind of lifted off with the glue, but that's fine. You're going to fold it flat, make sure it's nicely stuck down, and if you're using tape, it will be an instant stick. But if you want to move it around and wiggle it, you can definitely use glue like I did. I would suggest to make sure you fold the card flat when you add that chicken coop, just to make sure it's nicely attached. So here's my bridge. This is the same bridge you get with the storefront. It's just used if you want to add things inside your barn. So I added one bridge across the center inside the roof, and I glued it towards the front. It's not super deep in there, but it's maybe an inch, not even, maybe 3/4 of an inch from the front of the card. I added a horse and a goat to the bridge, and then a little sheep directly behind the door. I glued just his little feet so that you don't see the glue through the acetate. There I went ahead and added string lights inside. I think that's a cute way to create a home decor piece and light it up. You can also add Amanda's Pear Blossom Press Easy Lights. Those would be really cute, and I might do a tutorial on that. Here are my leftover animals. I thought they were perfect for the back of the card. And then I have a sentiment that says Happy Autumn from the whole herd. This is from the Horsing Around 6x8 stamp set. So here's that hay bale that's holding down the door. You can just swing that open and close to see those animals inside the barn. And that finishes off the card. So I know I'm going really fast right now. It feels like I am because I'm trying to narrate as I go. But if you want to at any point slow down the video, there is an option to do that on YouTube. Just hit the little settings icon and that will allow you to either speed up or slow down a video, which I just discovered from a Kelly Letavola recent video she posted, and it's a game changer. I think especially with my videos that feature pop-up tutorials. So I just wanted to throw that out there. So for the barn, I cut the base from like a burnt orange color, and I went around the edges with my Vintage Photo Distress ink. Here I have my roof panels. These are included in the Haunted House add-on. That add-on was meant for the storefront, however, you can use it also on the barn. So these are kind of like broken roof shingles, and I wanted to vintage them up with my black soot distress ink, so I'm just inking up the bottom parts of them, and I cut 12 pieces so that I can create a very layered roof. You'll see when I start decorating it. I'm going to first decorate my front barn. I did not cut any windows through this card, just to show you that you don't have to. You can instead create a closed barn and add your A7 storefront mechanism to the bottom of it so that it pops right out of an envelope. So you'll see that later on. I wanted to show a sample of it because that mechanism is super cool. So here you can see I decorated the main barn with the framed pieces that are included in the A7 pop-up barn die set, and then on the right side I added a graveyard border. And now I am going to work on my A2 forest trees. I want the trees to be gray, but I also want a little bit of black behind them just to add some nice contrast. So I cut the base from gray and black. I am gluing the gray on top of the black, slightly offsetting it so that I see a little bit of black peeking through. And then I have a second black panel that I'm adding behind the black, lining the two black pieces up exactly, just so that I can have a little bit of dimension on these. So I'm going to cut off the border around these trees. I mainly just want the branches to cover the front of my barn. I kept the front very simple because I knew that these trees would kind of be my focal point. So on the back base, I am adding my little cutout template that I showed you earlier. I cut it from gray cardstock this time. And then I'll add another slimline graveyard border. I love these borders. If you're a Halloween person and you love scene building, I think these borders are perfect. So again, I'm going to add the border to the back side and to the side piece, cutting each piece at the score line. And as you can see, these borders pretty much decorate the sides of the card on their own. I am going to add some more glue behind the trees and those small skinny crosses, just to make sure it's all flat. I did also cut the pumpkins on the borders from orange glitter cardstock, so there I'm just paper piecing those on top. It adds a nice little bit of sparkle. So I'm back to my trees. I'm going to glue them to my front piece, and you can use the shadow dies for the windows and door to create another color on your barn, but like I said, I didn't want to go overboard because I knew the trees were going to cover a lot of my windows up, so I did not add any shadows behind the windows or door. I let the card base shine through. So here you can see I just cut off my overhanging branches, and it looks very creepy crawly. I love it. It turned out super pretty. And you can keep the trees intact and maybe use them for a winter card if you die cut them from white. I think that would be really pretty. So here's my witch from the A7 Witch Hole cover plate. I am paper piecing her dress and hat with orange glitter cardstock, her cauldron with silver mirror, the pumpkin from the same orange glitter, and then the potion bottle that she's holding I also made silver. So I'm going to attach my two base pieces together, just adding glue to my tabs and connecting each end. And so now we can work on the roof. These are all of the shingles. Like I said, I cut 6 of them. You don't need that many because you can glue them further apart. But I really wanted these to look like roof shingles, so I wanted a bunch of layers. So I made sure before I started gluing these borders to reinforce my roof score lines so that I can in turn fold down these shingles. You saw there I even folded the shingle that's overhanging by like 1/8 of an inch I thought that was cool. And then for the rest, I'm just stacking them on top of each other. They're a little bit longer than the roof because they're made for the storefront roof. So that allows you to glue them closer to the left or closer to the right so that they're not all stacked exactly the same on top of each other. So that wasn't, planned, but that's just how it works. So now I'm going to work on the other side. Again, starting with that one that's overhanging and folding those little shingles down. These side score lines are only about 1/8 of an inch, but they add such a nice texture. So I wanted to make sure that those were nicely folded down before adding my additional layers. So here I have 5 on each side. Before I add my last shingle on each side, I'm going to again score those roof lines so that my shingles will also fold in the right direction. All right, so now I have everything nicely folded. I'll go ahead and add my last shingle on each side. And I think that ink blending added a nice touch. It kind of differentiates each panel. It also makes it look a bit grungy and vintage, which I like. So the way that these shingles are cut, it allows you to poke up. They're kind of like frayed edges. So I popped up some of those just using my fingers. Adds a little bit of texture, which I like. Here is my bridge, again, folding one tab towards myself, one tab away from myself, adding glue on each side, and lining up each end with the point of my roof. Rotating it 90 degrees, and butting up the middle score line on the roof with the tab. Folding it down just to make sure it's nicely adhered. And that is it. So now I'm going to work on the chicken coop, reinforcing those score lines right now. I will attach each end together with that tab at the end. Right now I have the triangles facing outwards. I'm going to pinch them in so that the points are facing inwards towards each other. And that is how your bottom piece should look. There's tabs at the bottom. Those tabs are used to glue onto your base. I don't know what happened with my tripod there. Here is the roof piece of the chicken coop. I went ahead and completely cut those slits that are already cut for you. I'm just going to reinforce the lines and fold in those triangle pieces towards the middle. And those triangles are where you add the glue, and you just line them up with the triangles on the bottom piece. And that is it. That creates the chicken coop. I will say that if you add that chicken arrow that I added on the first card, that is going to make your A7 cards too high. So for this card, I am not adding the chicken. So this one will fit in an envelope. The first one I made would have to be hand delivered. So there we go. I'm going to add it to my roof. You can glue it right in the middle, but I like to glue it towards the front so that you see it better. Again, I'm using liquid glue. I start on the roof while the card is popped up, and then once the glue is a little bit dried, but not entirely, I fold it and squeeze there for a couple seconds to make sure that's nicely adhered. Here's my witch. I decided to cut her off the base piece, so it's just the witch and the cauldron, and she's going to be glued to the right side. And then on the sides, I'm going to just decorate them with a silver bat. On the back, I'm going to add this large pumpkin from that witch base. Thought that added a nice bit of sparkle. And then on this side, I don't think I added anything. I thought about adding another silver bat, but decided against it because there's that nice tree. Then there's that crow from the witch hill. I decided to use every piece that I cut, and I added the crow to the front tree. This Beware is from the A7 Haunted House storefront add-on. I cut it 3 times from heavyweight black cardstock, once from silver, and I'm just going to add that to the back of the card. There's not really an area to add a message, but I am just going to display this on my shelf as a home decor piece. Here is that A7 mechanism that I was talking about. You can add that the exact same way you add it to the storefront to the bottom of the card. And here you'll see what it does. I'm going to slip this card into an envelope. You can see that it fits perfectly in there. And then when your recipient takes it out of the envelope, it just pops right into place. It's so cool. I have several tutorials showing how to add the mechanism inside the storefront. You add it the same way. So I'm going to link to that video so you can see how that works. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. It's another long one, but I really enjoyed making these cards, and I know that you guys are loving the pop-up barn. There's not very many to go around, so if you like them, I would grab them before the restock, which will be in 2 weeks. So thank you all for stopping by today. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. Otherwise, I will see you in my next video. Bye!